Welcome back to The Wave. While National Economic and Social Development Council reports show that Thailand's economy has performed very well in the second quarter, the growth is still cooling given high household debt, low public and private investment, and political instability. Joining me now is World Bank economist Warunthorn Puthong to analyze the economic figure and the government policy. Great to have you on the show. I think as, of course, the NESDC has released the GDP growth for Thailand in second quarter, of course, is at 2.3%. What do you make of this figure?
So the number of 2.3% actually came in exceed our expectations. Basically, the number of 2.3% was actually the highest in 5 quarters. So on the positive side, we have seen that the growth has been boosted mainly by the slight pickup of the export of goods from the previous contractions. In terms of the private consumption and tourism recovery, they also continue to be the main support for growth. But we all see that the impact from those two factors has been slowing over time. Another upside also came from the manufacturing output, where we have seen that it has turned to positive territory for the first time in the past 7 quarters. But on the flip side, we also see that the factor that has been dragging on economic growth in the second quarter came from the contractions in the private and public investment. And this is because of the delay of the budget approval for as many as 6 months. But in terms of the overall recovery pace in Thailand, I would want to say that it is also important not to get carried away by the positive number that we saw in the second quarter. Because if we look beyond the second quarter, the recovery pace in Thailand has been much slower comparing to, for example, other ASEAN economies. So in the post-pandemic period, the average growth for Thailand averaged at 2.1%. This is a relatively low number when compared to the pretty solid recovery in a country like Malaysia, which achieved 6% of average growth, and even above 6% for Philippines and Vietnam. So this suggests some of the structural challenges and also competitiveness challenges that Thailand is facing. But in terms of the overall economic growth for this year, we expect some of the further recoveries. The World Bank estimate that GDP growth for this year will be at around 2.4%. So it will be a pickup from last year.
Yeah, so of course you talk about the regional neighboring countries too. Actually, their GDP figure is higher than Thailand's, but 2.4 or 2.5%, of course, is similar to NESDC's report for 2.5% at the midpoint. But I want to point out that too, because actually, despite this good figure, the unemployment rate increases to 1.07% too. So this is what the Thai government should take up with immediately. So just want to understand from the World Bank insights, so what challenges will the new government face? Because of course, the new Prime Minister Pheu-Thai already take the seat. So what should she take out immediately about the challenges, and how about the long-term challenges ahead?
Yes. So first of all, I would like to mention about our outlook for the rest of the year 2024. That I think that economy is likely to continue to recover with support from private consumption, tourism recovery, as well as the government support on household income, such as the existing energy subsidy, and additional boost from, for example, transfer programs such as the digital wallet. But in terms of the short-term challenges that we have seen so far regarding the external front, there is a risk that may come from the global economic slowdown. So despite we expect that this year the export of goods is likely to be contributed positively to growth due to the normalizations of the global trade. But there is also the risk of global slowdown, such as in China and the US, as well as the impact of trade diversions due to the trade policy between the US and China that had led to the decline of export from China to the US and causing the reallocations of Chinese export of cheap product to other countries, and that also includes Thailand. And this has already affected competitiveness among Thai local businesses as well. And in terms of the domestic challenges, there are also risks facing short term and also the long terms. And in the short terms, first, we see that there is a risk of slowing down of the domestic consumptions due to high levels of household debt of as high as 91% of GDP, which is higher when compared to other ASEAN countries. And there is also the risk of financial distress among the small and medium enterprises. The current flood situations in the northern part of Thailand is also adding to the risk of the economic slowdown. And in terms of the tourism growth, we also see that there is a risk of slowing down as well. As we all know that the tourism sector has been the major driver for growth in the past several quarters. This is because of the tourism's recovery. But we have seen so far that in terms of the number of tourist visitors is almost reaching the pre-pandemic levels. So this means the additional boost that will come from the tourism sectors will be quite limited. So it will be critical for Thailand to come up with a policy measure to strategically unlock the potential of the tourism sector, including the increase of the capacity as well as the quality of the tourism industry. And over the long terms, we project that growth is likely to become quite moderate due to the structural challenges that Thailand is facing.
Yeah, but you talk about those problems, but I think the key issue is how to boost the economic growth again. So, of course, you talk about the stimulus package, including digital wallet scheme. Do you think that is a very good package to propel the economy? And how about the approach to the long-term growth, long-term strategies? Because, of course, some criticize that the green transition to supply chain is quite slow. How about other factors?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention about the projections on the long-term growth for Thailand, where we have seen that in terms of the potential growth in the next 10 years from now, we are seeing the average growth to slow to only about 2.7%. And this reflects the challenge that come from the structural issues such as the aging population, slowing of the productivity growth, and also low investment. So as for your questions, it is true that the current government plans of the stimulus, it is important as it would provide support to the domestic demand through the boost on the household spending. But I would also want to say that the effect of this kind of short-term boost will last only a short period of time, and it will come at quite a high fiscal cost. The World Bank also estimate that the transfer, if it is delivered by the fourth quarter of this year, it is expected to provide additional boost to growth at about 1 percentage point over the 1 year period. And growth is likely to reach 2.8% instead of 2.4 estimated in the previous projections. However, this will come at quite a significant fiscal cost of about 2.4% of GDP and likely to lead to even higher public debt over the long run. So to ensure that the fiscal transfer is used in most efficient way, I would say that the government can focus on the transfer that would provide larger growth and longer poverty impact, which are the one that targeted on the poorest and most vulnerable household the most. So this is because the lower income groups tend to be the groups of people who consume the most as a fractions of their earning, and that will give the quickest and highest boost to the GDP. But also the one thing that I would like to say is we need to also keep in mind that Thailand need to also focus on the structural reforms to unlock the potential growth. I would say that although the fiscal stimulus that target the short terms is important, but it will not be enough to support the sustainable growth. So eventually, Thailand will need to undergo structural reforms, which include the transition into higher value-added productions and services, as well as the investment for regional connectivity, the development of the secondary cities, adaptation to climate change, as well as the labor market development to improve the skilled professionals. So by putting all this reform together, it will allow a boost to higher and more sustainable growth over the long terms.
Well said, because of course I talked to your vice president and country manager. This is the all in line that actually the Thailand government should take with for the long-term strategy, including the flooding situation, of course, the secondary cities development and education reform too. But right now, I think people all eye on digital wallet scheme, no matter we call it digital money or digital token. So from the World Bank side, of course, I just want to understand, do you think, is it beneficial to propel the economy? Of course, it's for the short term, but for the long term, you talk about the public debt too, because it's quite high at this moment. So do you think, is it worth implementing digital wallet scheme at this point?
Yes, as I mentioned so far, that Thailand is facing many risks or both in the short terms and also in the long terms. So the support on the household spending will be quite critical, as we have seen that the boost for the economy from the private consumption side is slowing over time. And then there is also the risk that come from the high indebtedness in the household levels and also in the SMEs levels. And then in terms of the short-term stimulus, of course, the digital wallet or the cash transfer program will provide the boost, especially when the times gets very difficult. Then in terms of the fiscal multiplier or impact that it would do to overall growth will be higher. So I would say that the fiscal stimulus is important at the current period of time, but the measures should come with the well-crafted way that it will focus on the boost on the lowest income households. As I already mentioned, that the lowest income household are the group that would provide the highest fiscal multiplier to growth.
Right, and you talk about, of course, World Bank projected if this digital wallet scheme is implemented by the end of this year, 1% of GDP will be boosted. Am I right? Am I correct? I think I'm right. Okay, so the digital wallet scheme boost could be important, but the government, as what you said, according to World Bank economist, that the long-term structural issue should be looked at too. Okay, today, thank you for your time, World Bank economist Warunthorn Puthong, to join Thai PBS World The Wave. ขอบคุณมากครับ thank you